Brother, this video is very important and I want you to watch it. This is going to open your mind about a lot of things that's happening in Africa right now. I know many people were outside a few days ago marching for Ibrahim Traore because we all understood something fishy was happening and nobody wanted to stand for that this time around. We've seen it too many times with Lumumba, with Sankara. No one said it's okay with Ibrahim Traore. This is going to open your mind up, and I want you to watch this. The American general opened the minds to many people. Even the people that never really thought a lot have started digging into things to try to find out what's really happening. Why does it look like Ibrahim Traore is a danger? Why does it look like these new African leaders are not necessarily what Africa needs? We're going to find out from now. Let's go.
Colonel Langley, I have constituents that have been scattered across Africa on train and equip missions. So just ballpark, in the last decade, how many Africans has the United States military trained and equipped?
The question, how many officers the United States has trained? We're talking about African generals. So the subject is the United States of America has trained many people in Africa and they ended up being people that America don't necessarily like. We're going to find out what that means. Let's go.
Congressman, I don't have that figure. I can get that figure for you.
Ballpark, just, how many?
Congressman, it would be a wild guess right now.
Seems like something we should know, right?
Over the years, we have trained a substantial number, especially in the Gulf of Guinea states, but including
like more than 10,000?
It is more than 10,000.
More than 50,000?
I'd say we're reaching around 50,000
okay.
at least.
And what percentage of the people we've trained end up participating in insurrections or coups against their own government?
Very small number, Congressman, very small number.
So what percentage do you think?
I'd say probably less than 1%.
But it does happen.
The IMET program is in force, and we've pushed a significant number through our schools across the
and what data sets do you track to arrive at the conclusion that less than 1% of the roughly 50,000 that we've trained have participated in coups? Because it'd be like about 500, about 1% of 50,000.
Congressman, you may have that information. I don't at this time, but I know.
Well, I know there are some, right? Like go ahead and throw up that image. This is Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, and this is a photo of him. Did we train and equip him? In Guinea?
By name, I cannot identify that.
Well, that guy in the middle with the big red hat, Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, that's him with a bunch of U.S. service members outside of our embassy. And just months after this photo was taken, in 2021, he led a coup in Guinea and threw out the leader. Does that concern you?
Congressman, core values is what we start off with in IMA programs.
Do we share core values with Colonel Doumbouya?
Core values. I will repeat that. Core values. Respect for humanity.
Do we share those values with Colonel Doumbouya?
Absolutely. In our curriculum.
He led a coup?
We do.
Okay, well, that's a very telling answer. In Burkina Faso, did we share core values with the leader that we trained there who led a coup?
It's in our curriculum. We
Leading
stress
coups
core
are in our
values.
curriculum?
We request civilian-led governance.
Wait, hold on. Is leading coups in our curriculum?
Absolutely not.
So
civilian-led.
My question is, do we share core values with the coup leader in Burkina Faso who we trained?
Holistically, we teach core values with a
Who is he talking about there? Burkina Faso. That's Traore or not? We're not 100% sure. He didn't mention Traore, but he said in Burkina Faso, people that left coup, do we share core values? Let's go.
With a respect for civilian governance, apolitical, and that's what sticks across a very high percentage in the 99 percentile.
Right? But not everybody. And I wonder how many people it takes to plan a coup. I mean, initially you didn't know how many we trained and equipped. Then you said it was 1%. You had no basis for that 1% number because there's no data set you track. Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record. Another U.S. trained soldier stages a coup in West Africa by The Intercept.
Without objection, so ordered.
And I further seek unanimous consent to enter into the record, U.S. forces trained the Guinean colonel behind the recent coup in West African country, and this is regard to Guinea.
Without objection, so ordered.
So I guess the question is, why should U.S. taxpayers be paying to train people who then lead coups in Africa?
Congressman, our curriculum harvests core values and also to be able to embolden these countries for a representative democracy.
But General, that democracy isn't what emerges. The problem is, I know you may have great confidence in what you're teaching, but when two governments have been overthrown, I guess how many governments have to be overthrown by people we train before you sort of get the message that our core values might not be sticking with everyone? Is it 5 countries? 10?
We'll continue with our persistence in assuring
But do you think it's
that
working?
they harbor democratic norms, democratic values.
Just a moment ago, you
apolitical.
said we shared core values with Colonel Doumbouya. You said that just moments ago in response to my question, and his core value seems to be leading a coup. So I don't think it's stuck. I think we should at least know how many countries we train the coup plotters in. How many is too many? Because clearly 2 is not too many, and I think we could use our resources far more effectively than doing this.
Now, this is very interesting listening to this gentleman whose name is Matt Gates. I don't think I've pronounced his name appropriately, but yeah, I'm just an African guy. So we're going to try to find out a bit what this means, and so we can understand. So the question is very simple. Why are we training people in Africa that ends up organizing coups? And that's bothersome. Why are we investing? Why do taxpayers have to pay, of their money to train people with whom we don't share values? How does that even mean? So he was mentioning a few people. He mentioned the people that did the coup in Burkina Faso. He didn't say Ibrahim Traore, but he said in Burkina Faso. We're going to find out who are the people. Who are the Africans that are conducting coups after being trained by Americans? Now, let's go through it. This information are available in the public domain. I am not telling you this. This is available if you do research. This man, Abdourahmane Tiani, who's the leader of Niger right now. Abdourahmane Tiani, like many senior military officers in Africa, participated in US-led training program designed to foster better military government, leadership and cooperation with Western forces, especially in terms of counter-terrorism and regional stability. So Abdourahmane Tiani, who's the leader of Niger right now, was trained by Americans. Now, we're not saying he was entirely trained by Americans, but he participated in training with American forces. Now, if somebody trained with Americans and today he's still in power, but he seemed to not be liked by the very Americans that trained a little bit of him, why would that be? Let's try to find out. What could be the reason why they don't get along anymore? Number one, Abdourahmane Tiani came into power chasing Mohamed Bazoum, who was president. He took over the country because Bazoum was clearly working for the interest of other nations. Bazoum was working for the interest of Europeans, not for the interest of Africans. So they needed a change. Through a coup d'etat, they took over power. After taking off power, they sent a message to the French ambassador asking him to come and report so they can have a discussion. The goal was, let's have a talk. We have a brand new government here. How are we going to function together? Now, what did the French ambassador do? He disregarded the invitation and never responded. After a few days, they say, okay, since you have not responded, you need to pack your stuff and leave our country. After they did that, French in France say, we do not recognize you as a government in Niger. We are not complying with your demands, even though we are foreigners in your country.
I believe our policy is the correct one. It's based on the courage of President Bazoum, on the efforts of our diplomats and our ambassador in Niger, who will stay despite pressure from coup leaders. We do not recognize them. We support the president, who's not resigned.
France had about 1,100 military soldiers stationed in Niger back in time. After France pushed back, Niger forced them to leave the country, and the French soldier eventually left the country. At the time in Niger, there was French military presence as well as American military presence. So after they chased the French soldiers, Americans were cool. They're like, okay, we're safe. We have no problem, no beef with these people. So we're going to be okay. The Prime Minister of Niger went to Iran to have a discussion with its Iranian counterparts. They had to talk about politics and future development. In the same time, an American diplomat started accusing Niger of trying to sell uranium to Iran. So a prime minister of an independent country decided to go to an independent country to have a discussion. A politician from America started blaming them and gaslighting them.
The government of Niger rejects the misleading allegations made by the head of the American delegation, who maintains that it had signed a secret uranium agreement with the Islamic Republic of Iran. This cynical approach, usually used to discredit, demonize, and justify their threats against states, is reminiscent of the Second Iraq War.
So basically what they were trying to do is, okay, let's put pressure on Niger by accusing them of doing something that they're not doing. Their reaction will be justification, saying, no, we're actually not selling them uranium. It's not what you think. Now, in return, Niger did not do that. They stayed quiet. When the Prime Minister returned to the country, Niger asked American soldiers to leave their territory. They said, we are an independent country. We are free to trade with whoever we want. It's not for you to come in our country and tell us who's going to be our friend. America sent people to Niger to have a discussion with General Chani. Say, please, let's have a discussion. We don't want our military to leave your country. Why? Because America invested big time in Niger, in a base in Agadez. America invested about $400 million to build a military base with the goal of flying drones and monitor terrorists in the area. So for some reason, America needs to be in Niger so they can protect America in America. Shortly before Americans left their base in Niger, Niger invited the Russians to come into Niger and stay in the very same base where American soldiers were based. And after that, Matt Gaet, this man that's speaking here, he made this comment.
That they will have a full fighter pilot escort there, and if the Nigerian government or any other third world thug tries to even turn on their air defense systems, we should show those leaders and those thugs what the target package looks like on their houses and their family members, because it should not be Americans that are suffering because President Biden and Blinken are so embarrassed that their strategy in Africa failed that they're willing to let Americans' conditions deteriorate.
Now that's him saying they should have bombed Niger because Niger asked them to leave their country. So because you're asking us to leave your country, we should come, and if you try to open your whatever, we're going to bomb you. That's what he said. I hope you're following track of things that happened between the time the leader trained with America to the time they ask Americans to leave. Now let's go to Mamadou Doumbouya. Mamadou Doumbouya is the man on the picture. He mentioned Mamadou Doumbouya, the man with the red hat, before.
This is Colonel Mamadou Doumbouya, and this is a photo of him. Did we train and equip him?
Who's Mamadou Doumbouya? Mamadou Doumbouya is the president of Guinea, this country right here. Mamadou Doumbouya is known to have received military training from the United States of America as part of the U.S. Security Assistance Program. Doumbouya trained in a program which is a key part of the U.S. efforts to build professionalism and leadership in foreign military forces. So obviously America's got this program that they train many people from different countries, and Doumbouya was part of the people that was part of this program. Doumbouya was the leader of the special force in Guinea at the time. In September 2021, Doumbouya led a military coup that ousted then President Alpha Condé, citing concerns over constitutional amendment that allowed Condé to seek a third term and the country descend into chaos. So Alpha Condé, that used to be president before him, wanted to change constitution so he can stay in power forever, for a third term at least. Doumbouya, who was at the head of the special force, organized the coup and overthrew the government. What could have been the reason why the relationship went south between America and Doumbouya, who was trained by Americans? The United States of America condemned the coup. The U.S. Department condemned the action of the military and called for immediate release of President Condé, the restoration of constitutional order, and transition to civilian-led government. The embassy hosted meetings with opposition leaders and civil society organizations calling for a dialogue and inclusive transition to democracy. Obviously, this irritated Doumbouya. Like, why you as an embassy in a foreign country hosting a meeting with opposition leaders already and civil society wanting to have a dialogue? I mean, are you not meddling into our internal businesses? You're supposed to be here for us. Whatever happening with the other people, it's none of your worries. You shouldn't be worried about that. Doumbouya government viewed the engagement as attempts to undermine the junta's authority and to promote opposition force that could destabilize the regime. The junta accused US of interfering in Guinea's sovereignty and fueling dissent. So that's one of the reasons why they felt like, okay, what's happening here? The US put pressure on Doumbouya, asking him to go through elections so they can have a civilian government. Doumbouya felt like it was too much pressure, like it's our internal business. You shouldn't do that. So Doumbouya gave a time frame of when he will probably have election held. Now that's too long. It's looked like Doumbouya wanted to stay in power. Now what did America do? The US embassy in Guinea put up its own countdown clock in a very public and symbolic move to pressure the military junta led by Mamadi Doumbouya to transition to civilian rule after September 2021 coup. You hear me there? The United States of America put up a clock, a countdown clock to when the election should be held. You see the countdown clock, like the one you see before New Year's Eve. They put down a countdown clock in their embassy's website, citing, okay, you have 10 days left before you organize an election. This is happening in a foreign country. How do you feel about that? Obviously, what was the reaction of Doumbouya? Doumbouya was very pissed off. He was irritated and reacted in defiance. Why would you come into my country and put up a clock on how we should run our country? I mean, yeah, you could say, please have the election, but putting up a clock for us, that's very similar to what's happening in Uganda, when Uganda said they don't want men who like other men. It's not, norm to them. Please don't do it in public or you're going to face the wrath of the government. What happened? The US embassy in Uganda flew a flag of that flag very, very high. Very, very, very high. I mean, this country you're staying at say, we don't want that. We're voting a law that, yeah, but you just flew the flag. What coincidence? Would America have done that in Saudi Arabia? I mean, Saudi Arabia don't accept that either. Would they have done that in Saudi Arabia? Many people are asking questions. Maybe Saudi Arabia better than Africans. I mean, they're just little Africans. They don't mean anything. You could do anything. What are they going to do? Are they going to walk into the embassy? We understand an embassy, it truly is, it's a piece of the land of America. It's not Uganda. But flying a flag very, very high, is it for the embassy or for everybody to see? Question mark. Now we're going to Assimi Goïta. This is Mali.
People of Mali, we are not holding on to power, but we are holding on to the stability of the country.
Again, fellas, we're trying to find out all these people he mentioned. He said they trained African soldiers and ended up leading coups. Now, normally when you train people and they do things, you like them because they are your kids in some ways. Now, we're going to find out, are all the people that were trained by America and that led coups not liked by America? Or there are some that are liked and some that are not liked? Apparently, they are. We're going to find out now. Assimi Goïta of Mali was trained by the United States during his early military career. He participated in the US military training program as a part of an international military education. This all is available in public domain. You can go do your own research and you're going to find out. Now, why did the relationship go south? We're going to find out. Relationship with the United States became strained and gradually severe after Mali made the decision to cut ties with France and increasingly pivot toward Russia. Obviously, France is a friend of America. France is a Western country with Western mentality. Why do you cut ties with your colonizer? I mean, he's a nice colonizer. You should have that colonizer because he's our friend. Why do you look into Russia? No, we don't like that. America was not the only country to react in that way. Some Scandinavian countries removed their embassies from Sahel after Sahel rejected France. In response to the coup, the US imposed a series of sanctions on individuals within the Malian junta, including Assimi Goïta himself, freezing their assets, restricting travel to the United States of America. In response to international pressure and the sanction, the junta under Goïta began to pivot away from its traditional Western pattern, notably France and US, and sought to establish closer ties with Russia. You see where we're going? So, does it look like things are happening for nothing? I don't know, you're going to let us know. Now, let's see this very interesting person. Oligui. This man is president of Gabon. He came into power in 2023 by force. As per public information, Oligui is known to have attended various military courses that were typically open to African officers, such as those of counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, and military strategy with Americans. This is public domain, could be true or could be 50% true. But Oligui was not 100% trained by Americans. We know that he trained in Morocco. We know that. Oligui overthrew the government of President Ali Bongo Ondimba in 2023. Ali Bongo Ondimba's father was a president for about 40-some odd years, for multiple decades. And after that, the son took over and continued what the father started. But the son was very, very sick. Look at him here. He still wanted to stay in power. Then Oligui, for some reason, who was one of the chief of special force or the military guard for the president, one of the two certainly, decided to take over power. Now, what's interesting is they've never said Gabon was a bad country or they were looting or stealing from the people, like they were accusing Ibrahim Traoré of serving their own nation. They've not brought Gabon to the negative light. Why would this be? Let's see, perhaps. Well, number one, Gabon has historically been a keen partner in the sector of oil, mining and forestry, and US businesses have investment in the country. So interesting, Gabon is very positive to the US. Even though Oligui took power, he never chased the French. Gabon was colonized by France. So nothing changed. All the companies that were run by French people that made a lot of money, nothing changed at all, as opposed to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and these other countries. Number two, Gabon hosts military bases that are used by both French and American forces. Both France and the United States maintain military presence in Gabon, albeit with different strategic objective and level of engagement. France maintains a more permanent and established military presence, including military bases and personnel, reflecting the historical and strategic ties between the two countries. The US maintains a small, more flexible military footprint in Gabon, focusing on counter-terrorism. Now, there's another person. That's interesting. Well, this man also did the same thing, but he wasn't perceived in the same way. But he was trained also, and he did a coup. It's interesting. Well, very recently, Gabon has done elections. Okay, they've done election. They were banned from the African Union. Now they are accepted. Like, people are asking themselves, is this a way to show Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, this is how you need to do? Even though you do a coup, you should still respect the norms of things. This other guy named Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, who used to be president before Ibrahim Traoré, he also was trained by Americans. Okay. But he was never accused of being not a nice person and stuff like that. Because even though he was trained, partially by Americans, he still did things that the West lacked. Maybe that's the reason. Well, Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba was overthrown by Ibrahim Traoré. Traoré led a military coup that ousted Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, the previous leader of Burkina Faso, in September 2022. Traoré takeover followed dissatisfaction with Damiba's handling of insurgency in northern Burkina. Now, there isn't public record of Ibrahim Traoré training with Americans, but it is believed that most of the people in high hand, because he was one of the elite person around the president or around the special force, it is believed that most of them in some time, it's not confirmed, do get training around with American forces. Armenian Matt Guide mentioned that the leaders in Burkina Faso who did the coup, do we have the same values? Was he mentioning Ibrahim Traoré or somebody else? We know lately the pressure has been on Traoré. Even the American general saying Traoré is using the gold for his own purpose. What does this mean? Fellas, once again, this is all for entertainment purpose. It's for you to think, rejoice and be happy and laugh about it. Let me know how you feel about this. It was a great pleasure. Please do this before you leave. We need you. We love you. We want you here. We want to be a family together. If you're not subscribed, I suggest you do subscribe. We're going to meet our people in private groups for further details and further news that is very internal that we cannot perhaps talk about here. Okay, if you want to be part of the special group, you're very welcome. Click on the button here. We're going to see each other with more exclusive and more private stuff. And I want to thank all the people that are part of our private group already. Thank you very much. You are special people to us. We see you. We're always going to see you. God bless.